Thank you very much, John, for that kind introduction and excellent speech. John may have said that he lives in a great part of the world, in a great part of London, which is Tooting. And all of you may not know this, but Tooting is the centre of the universe. And he's had, as he said, a half-decent and very modest MP for a while. But it's a pleasure, John, to be here. As John mentioned, he's planning on retiring next year. John has had a distinguished career spanning 5 decades. At the moment, it's 50 not out. Most recently, of course, as chairman of Lloyd's, but also with Kleinwood Benson, Lazard Brothers and Credit Suisse, amongst others. John is a key figure in the city representing the insurance industry, which has traditionally seen London as its hub. And it was good to hear him on the Today programme this morning at 6:15. Slightly weird being woken by you this morning, John, and you've been one of the last voices I hear tonight as well. I'm sure I speak for everyone here when I say he'll be a massive loss, not just the Lloyds of London, but to the whole business community when he retires. John, thank you very much for your hard work. It's a real honour to be here this evening. Good to be amongst so many friends. And an honour to be invited to make this speech at only the second city dinner held in this incredible space at Lloyd's of London. This is one of the most iconic modern buildings in London and the home of the world's premier insurance market. Some incredible things have been insured here over the past 300 or so years. Space tourists who plan to go to the International Space Station. Bruce Springsteen's voice. Betty Davis's waist. Ken Dodd's teeth, to name just a few. But I've looked, and there's one thing I couldn't find, and that's an example of Lloyd's ever ensuring a promise made by a politician. Now, I'm not sure whether it's concerns about the premium, the risk, or the capital. But there you go, what a shame, an opportunity missed, John. No, but seriously, this place is at the heart of what makes London such a great financial capital, a vital organ in sustaining our economic success, and a British institution we should all be proud of. It's called Lloyd's of London, but it has an incredible global reach and reputation. Since the 17th century, as the Bishop reminded us, from started out in marine insurance, the Lloyd's market has helped business thrive, constantly evolving and adapting to meet the needs of a fast-changing world. This story of change and evolution is fitting in the current political and economic climate. For as we stand here this evening, we're facing one of the most uncertain and challenging times in recent history. The result of the EU referendum has shaken up the political and economic landscape, and the dust is unlikely to settle for many years to come. The fact that we seem to have avoided an immediate crisis doesn't tell us much about the future. And we have to be honest with the public and ourselves that things could get a lot worse before they get better. Like Lloyd's, and I suspect many businesses represented here tonight, I supported Britain remaining within the EU. It's no secret, I campaigned hard. I campaigned for what, in my view, was clearly in the best interest of London and the whole country. But the British people gave their verdict, and it now has to be respected. The people have expressed their democratic will. And as tempting as it might be, I'm not going to use this speech as a platform to criticise the Leave campaign or the senior politicians who were involved in getting us where we are today. As John said, that's because we are where we are. And what's important now is that rather than looking backwards, we focus on how we respond, adapt, and move forward with the confidence befitting our great city. And that's what I want to talk about here tonight. Primarily, I see my role as mayor following the referendum as twofold. Firstly, standing up for London, making sure we get the deal we need with the EU to secure the future prosperity of our city. And secondly, working with the government to put in place new initiatives to help boost jobs, growth and investment, planning ahead to mitigate against potential long fallout of Brexit. So this will be my approach, in London's corner to protect our competitiveness and actively fighting in the ring to advance our city ever forward, making it better for all Londoners. So let me address these two strands in turn. The EU negotiations. I've been crystal clear that as not only the UK's economic engine, but Europe's financial capital and the only region in England which voted to remain, London must have a seat at the negotiating table. And I'm pleased that this looks increasingly likely. Since the 24th of June, I've been busy engaging with the financial sector, business leaders and entrepreneurs to discuss their Brexit concerns and to look for potential opportunities that could come from being outside the EU. And I'll be continuing this process working with you and working with businesses across London. And also talking to the government as they formulate their position and hone their red lines. I'll be a strong voice for you, not only when talking to the government, but also in Brussels too, an advocate for business, for the financial sector and for the whole of London. But I also have a request for you and everyone here tonight. As much as possible, businesses and institutions in London need to be united. United when putting forward your needs and requests for the EU negotiations. Of course, there are different priorities in different parts of the financial sector. Investment banking has different needs to insurance. But the more united our message to government can be, the stronger the impact will be, making it harder to ignore or sideline our needs. So what do we want from negotiations and what reassurances do we need from government? Well, the UK's top priority must be securing a model of access to the single market that enables us to remain competitive globally. And as leading people in financial services, I don't have to tell you why. 500 million customers, nearly half of all British exports, many of them built upon our financial passporting rights. The foundation of British jobs, wealth and prosperity. Getting simple, easy and comprehensive access to the single market for our financial sector is not only central to London's ongoing status as the world's leading provider of financial and professional services, it is by extension key to our nation's economic stability and future growth. And I know, as John said this morning, Lloyd's of London is concerned about the possible loss or reduction of the passporting rights, which could see insurers being forced to restructure and face large operational, regulatory and tax costs as they have to adapt or consider alternative locations to London. So the government needs to be creative in its solutions and ambitious in its negotiating platform. This isn't just about how we can best replicate Switzerland or Norway, models which, if we're honest, don't work either politically or economically. Remaining a member of the single market without the ability to wield influence over the regulatory regime is just a non-starter. But I'm confident there is a workable deal to be agreed, a unique British deal that works for London, a deal that will enable London to remain a world-leading city for finance. The second priority is ensuring that we keep and attract talent. We've become one of the biggest, richest and best cities on earth because of our openness to trade, innovation and talent. As John also recently said, the talent here at Lloyd's is probably its greatest asset. And throughout our history, London has always been open to the world, open to talent, always looking outwards and trying to learn from others, and always looking to attract hard-working, inspiring and pioneering people. It's this open attitude that has helped to build our country. It's why London became the great city it is today. And it's why we attract the best and the brightest from around the world. Let's be clear, London's success as a global city is intrinsically linked to our openness to international talent. And this is something we can't afford to lose. Almost 1 in 10 Londoners were born in another EU country. Many are highly skilled, work in the city and elsewhere, making a massive contribution. I've been clear that these Londoners are still welcome here, and that this must never change. And I'm calling on the government to state unequivocally that no retrospective legislation will be introduced that curtails the rights of EU nationals currently working in London, whether they started before or after the referendum vote. I want you to have the confidence and the ability to continue to hire the best and the brightest from across the EU and further afield, both during this uncertain period and following Brexit too. It's absolutely crucial that the system following Brexit works for London, that it's flexible, that it's not arduous and on our businesses, and that it can support economic growth. And this work also includes looking at visas for foreign students, because one of my biggest concerns around Brexit is the impact on the higher education sector. London's university and higher education institutions are key drivers in our economic success, not only providing a rich source of talent, but through innovative research and spin-offs. London is the home to some of the world's greatest universities. And you know what? We have more international students here than any other city in the world. So I've already started working with universities to ensure that they can remain world-class institutions and continue to produce the brilliant graduates you need year after year, helping London keep our competitive edge. The third key area I want to touch on is timing. Timing for the negotiations is going to be absolutely crucial. We can't rush into triggering Article 50. The only chance of getting a successful Brexit deal, one that works for London and the whole country, is by going in fully prepared. It would be irresponsible in the extreme to start the 24-month countdown before we have a watertight game plan. As a country, this is going to be the biggest negotiation we've ever undertaken. Over the last 40 years, a complex political, economic and regulatory relationship has been built up between the UK and the EU. Triggering the start of the clock before we're much clearer on the path ahead would increase uncertainty rather than reduce it. It's great to be at the same table tonight as the Cabinet Secretary and Head of the Civil Service, Sir Jeremy Hayward. It was Jeremy's predecessor, the former Head of the Civil Service, Lord O'Donnell, who recently said the 2-year timetable was designed to favour the country staying in the Union. So let's not fall into that trap. Of course, we have to fulfil the wishes of the British people, but we have to take our time and proceed in a responsible way, with an approach that doesn't damage our economic prospects unnecessarily and that can provide as much stability and certainty as possible. That's what you need, and that's what I'll be fighting for. And I'd say this to those in government who fought for Brexit and who are now leading on the Brexit agenda. If you believe and want that one day you will be proved to be on the right side of history, you better plan well and proceed with care. If you rush it, you risk botching it. Not just the negotiations, but the ability for our economy and our businesses to adapt, and with them, Britain's economic prospects. Turning to the second strand I mentioned at the start, which is about how we can actively boost growth, jobs and investment in London. Monetary policy can offer relief to the economy in the short term. But to strengthen London's shield against the expected blows from Brexit, we have to push ahead now with plans for jobs, growth and investment. This is more important than ever. And it's why I've already been setting the groundwork for investment and growth in London. Looking at how we can support SMEs and startups by providing them with more affordable workspace, expanding the night tube to help boost our nighttime economy and your social lives, delivering the thousands of affordable homes London needs to improve productivity, pushing ahead with big infrastructure projects in London by completing Crossrail 1, getting Crossrail 2 off the ground and supporting the delivery of HS2 in a way that benefits the city, planning the next infrastructure projects for the long term, such as the potential Crossrail 3, new tram extensions and new river crossings in East London, supporting increased aviation capacity by signing off on the expansion of City Airport and backing a second runway at Gatwick, and working with businesses to support newer growth industries like tech, low carbon and life sciences. And one area in particular we're looking at is skills. Whenever I talk to businesses across London, you tell me that a key barrier to growth is the lack of certain skills in our workforce. Politicians have not been good enough at ensuring businesses have access to the skills you need, not just today, but for the future too. So I'm determined that we get better at responding to the needs of industry and the growing sectors of our economy, whilst putting productivity front and centre. That's why I've pledged to lead a new skills agenda for London, making sure businesses and Londoners get the skills they need to succeed. A major part of this will be working on a new digital talent pipeline initiative led from City Hall, with new powers over skills and higher education devolved from Whitehall to London. We're actively investing to open up new opportunities for young Londoners. That means mapping the skills London needs and working in partnership with businesses to plug the talent gap. New courses and apprenticeships will be created with industry to provide young people with cutting-edge skills, skills that can lead them directly into well-paid jobs. And all of this work, from building genuinely affordable homes to creating new apprenticeships, will be done in partnership with you. Because I understand the importance of working closely with business, something that is now a central plank in how we're doing things at City Hall. As part of this, I'm in the process of setting up a new business advisory board made up of real experts, and I hope some of you will be able to be involved in that. Finally, I'd like to finish by saying a few words about devolution, because I believe that devolution is one of the key tools to stimulating growth and being able to protect London through these uncertain economic times. You know, London's population is the same size as Wales and Scotland combined, but we have far less control over how the capital is run. That's why I'm talking to the government about getting more autonomy in London over things like business rates, infrastructure investment, skills and housing, so that we have more tools to stimulate economic growth. And I hope to be able to say more about this in the coming months. So yes, we face some huge challenges ahead, and on occasions it's going to feel like the city is being rocked by the repercussions of Brexit. But I'm still optimistic for London, and not naively so. I'm confident that we'll continue to be the best place in the world to do business, and convinced that just like Lloyd has managed to change, adapt and evolve over the centuries, we can do the same, ensuring that we carry on flourishing over the decades ahead. With the right approach, I know that we can get a good deal that works for London with the EU, whilst at the same time promoting new business, attracting inward investment and actively supporting growth. And as the Mayor of London, I'm determined to make sure this happens. Thank you.